so that you can, because it doesn't make sense that we're not capturing all of that, what you just said. But Rob said the same thing. She'll wake up in the morning, she'll be like, Sisterhood City, we are the future.
It's not a game. It is the mantra. It was the one that's the song that was in our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when I heard it, it's like I remembered it. That's how ingrained that set. It was so right.
Oh.
It was natural. And so I
Well,
sing it like when I'm doing something boss. Sisterhood, we are the future.
well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna play it for you right now to get us started.
Okay.
Sisterhood City, we are the future.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around, turn us around, turn us around. From hot combs to hard drives, we're pressing forward now. In this kitchen, we're cooking change, from countertops to desktop, our power remains. Got my sisters at the table, screen to screen we rise, like our grandmas in their kitchens, we're gonna digitize.
Welcome home, family. I'm Nana AI, and darling, this is our digital kitchen, where wisdom meets new technology. From hot combs to hard drives, we're seasoning the future with everything our mothers taught us. Now come on and pull up a chair, because right here, that's where the magic happens.
And right here is the magical THALIA ELIE. How are you doing, THALIA?
I'm golden. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing amazing, and welcome to Digital Kitchen. Nana said it first, but I want to welcome you here. You have been a sister in this sisterhood for years with a Z, and so I am more than happy to have you be in with us in the Digital Kitchen.
Amen. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm here for anything you're doing, anytime you're doing it.
Oh,
That's how much I'm just down for your movement that you
why?
bring to the
Well,
empire.
tell us why.
What?
Tell everybody why.
Because you wake up with the passion for motivating the culture and sisters. Like, yeah, anytime there's something that someone can be about or do, you're here for it. And you weave it with joyful love. Like that feed you and get you out the door, but you feel ready with your hat and your gloves and your wet and warm clothes. You're ready to handle and be um, a person of power. To have that kind of influence, to want to help people, and then you give them the parts to be a person of power in their space.
Well, I thank you. I thank you so much. And I see that light in you. Your support has been undying and just so uplifting. And whenever I could think of, like, oh, you know how people say, if I'm only doing it for one person, then I'm going to get up and do it. Then I'm going to make it happen. You're the one person. You're the one that I'll be like, I'm going to press send on this email. I'm going to I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to dig even deeper. And so I thank you for showing up, not only for me, but for the entire sisterhood. Because so many times when I don't feel like it, you don't even know, but virtually I could feel the joy and the hugs and the love and the laughter that you send my way. And I appreciate it so much.
Amen. You are just driving it, so I like anytime I can, I pull up. Say less. She's there. Mr. Jazz is there. What? Say less. I feel
But
like you need to be able to, have somebody who's gonna show up at different distances,
yeah.
like in person on the bus from Brooklyn, or doing donations online, or sending funding or writing an article. Like, I just want
And
to be
you
a guardian.
have, and you have, and you've done so much. So let's get into you and your work and how your introduction to tech.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like let's talk about it.
Well, I am a artist at heart. So to be in tech, it was a wild step for me because I think artist wise, I'm really actually analog. Don't come for me, people. I know it's crazy. How is someone who's analog in tech? But I wanted to take my art to a space where we exist. So I created a art installation called Selfie Esteem,
Mm,
and it was my first solo exhibition. And I thought, well, how do I want people to experience this?
mm,
Self esteem came from the concept that we outsource our self esteem. And if we outsource it, where are we outsourcing? To social media. Then how would someone experience my art exhibit? Through their phones, through their apps. So I wanted my art exhibit to really be experienced the way people naturally now experience things. So I needed to create an app that helped them interact with the pieces, and um, motion detectors for certain things to ignite. So I didn't know anything about that. I just knew I needed to find someone who spoke these languages, and it just happened to be Philly Tech Week. So
mm,
my art installation drove me to Philly Tech Week, and I knew I needed to know people who spoke tech talk. And
yes.
so I went to every single event, every single event I went to, just to continue to keep meeting people. And there was a scavenger hunt through all of the startups in Center City. And I mean, by startup number 4, I'm like, you have lounges and ping pong tables and soda, and there's a room with a hammock in there. And the people who work there were like, yeah, I said, well, what do you do with it? You just look at it? Is it art installation? And they're like, no, we rest. So your manager comes by and you're in a hammock.
Yeah.
And they say yes. And it turned out that I realized that this is an entire world that I had not known about. And the lifestyle, the work to life balance was different.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find out more. So I went to one by a brother, and it was the item, and it was specifically for the culture. And one thing he said was, the way that tech is now, it's so open
Mm-hmm.
with open source that it's it's more of what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then it might get to who you know. And I thought, man, if I switch into this field, I may be able to fund my own work. Instead of asking, I become an asset.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed it for me.
Speak
So
of.
I went into uh, studying for the AWS, which like was
Yeah.
like number one cloud
So
provider.
now, I was gonna say, make sure everybody knows, like that's the Amazon. Like when you say AWS, a lot of the language, like we start talking tech, and we don't even realize we slipped into it.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I'm going to explain
yes,
exactly
go ahead,
that.
explain it.
So Amazon there's 3 of them:
Mm-hmm.
Google, Amazon, Azure. There's a few more, but if you're talking about top corner, what's number one by 30% of the market? Amazon, which has created its own cloud platform. If you want something online, you call it in the cloud. So it was the largest one, by 27%,
Mm-hmm.
and then number 2. So I wanted to go for the hardest one by the biggest one, because I thought if I was going to move into tech, people needed to know that I was serious
Mm-hmm.
and that I was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed to go for that and there was only 3,000 people with this solution architect certification, so it
Mm-hmm.
was hard to get. And I joined with some teams. Something I recommend is finding your community. Go through your circles, but here, this is where the community is. And so, Minister Jazz has kind of placed that and opened the doors and brought you in the kitchen, that's a check. You found your community. And then I went and started to ask a lot of questions and study, and I got my cert. I developed my portfolio because I made those relationships, and it took 6 months to a year to study, and 6 months to study, a year, so another 6 months to develop my portfolio. So a year later, I was ready to start talking to people. So I had to know in my mind that that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I got one of the teammates who was studying with me has connections, and he gave a recommendation for this job. I applied and they brought me in for an interview, and I walked in and there were 5 white people excited to meet me. And I've never had that in my entire life. 5 tech white people were like, "You're Talia? She's Talia. Oh my God." She walked out of the room. She was like, "Suzanne, Mark, come in here. Talia's here. I'm here 3 minutes. That's it." So I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Kahiga has said so much about you." So I definitely texted Kahiga later, like, "What in the world did you say?" He just said, "I just told him who you were." And once I finished the interview, they said, everything Kahiga is saying seems like absolutely right. And so we love to talk about moving forward. And that was my first role. And I'm 3 roles in. It's not long-ish. I'm years in now, but I switched, gears. And so for me to move from art, what I realized is that in the way that I saw the world going, tech, we've reached a threshold. There's no going back.
Yes.
Like the way that we use cars, or we have wheels, or we have electricity, we're not going back from electricity. There was just a threshold that we hit. And right now, tech is the next threshold, and I needed a way in. Did I have the patience for 4 years of coding? No, my timeline was short. Now, a year still feels long, but it was one of the shorter routes. And because AWS certificate solution architect was such a hot button, I prayed on it. And I was like, God, I need to be led in the right spot. So when Kahiga showed up and spoke about that, there was something about his passion, just like yours, Minister Jazz. His passion was, I'm gonna put you on. Like, I'm not getting checks out of this, but I'm telling you, I wake up to put you on.
Yeah.
Get into this. And here's the information. And so I said, this guy, wherever he's going, I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's what I decided. And that's how I transitioned out of that. It was my solo exhibit to actually do the exhibit and meet tech people, realizing that there was an entirely different world that was getting paid well
Yeah.
to work smart.
Yes.
And they were able to fund their own. Whereas before, if I needed to fund my own art, it was definitely going to be a 3 job. I had to take 3 jobs on for 6 months, my third job, and then I quit it. I go back to having 2 jobs because, I have to pay all the bills.
Right.
So it's just like I'm living up to all of the Haitian stereotypes. I probably need 2 more jobs to really let my ancestors feel proud. It's ridiculous. So I just had to switch gears and try to look for another path. And I thought this could be the path. Instead of asking, I was trying for grants, and you have to wait
Yeah.
for the grant reply. And you're just in the air
Yeah.
until you figure out if you get that grant. But you still need to do the art. So now you have to fund that.
And I
It was
want to pause really quickly because you said something so key that people probably didn't hear, but I heard it because I feel it. You still need to do the art. Like for artists and for creators, it is like a need. It's like a medicine. It's like food. It's like air. Like you need to do the art. And to have that need to do the art and not have the funding to do the art feels
that part.
debilitating. Like it feels like you can't exist, and I don't really know how many people feel that level of urgency when it comes to having to do something. But I know that artists and creators have that, where it's just like, oh my God, I have to do this. God inspired me. It hit me in my head. I'm waking up and I can't stop thinking about it. Like it's this level,
Yes.
this next level of insanity that is like, if I don't get this out of me, something's not right. And to
Yeah.
not have the funding, like I said, it's a horrible place to be in. And that's why you will have somebody that worked 3 and 4 jobs to make sure that they could do the art. But it's, it's not the job. It's the art that's feeding the passion,
Yes. And
Yeah.
it was wild. I mean, as an artist, I'll give you, I was showing that same time I had a solo exhibit, I was showing at the Louvre. And
Mm,
so I couldn't fly to that exhibit because I could
mm,
not afford the ticket and fund this solo exhibit. I also had um, news coverage
yeah.
for the solo exhibit. So which one do I go to? Within that same year, I showed at Times Square across a 25-story building
Wow.
in the middle of Times Square, and I closed the show. So I was having this idea of success, but funding wise, I didn't have it at all. And I was just like, this is not the path.
Yeah.
Because I have worked hard
Yeah.
for little.
Yeah.
I can work hard for more, and I can work like, I've worked jobs I don't like for a
Right.
little bit of money.
Right.
I could work a job I don't like for a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I can do that math because once I do it, because I'm able to fund whatever else I want to do, that makes me appreciate, and it puts that position in a purposeful place. I don't feel manipulated by that. I don't
Right.
feel forced by that the way I felt forced by 3 jobs. Um, I chose those 3, so I wasn't saying forced in that way, but I knew I had to work 3 in order to save the money. Whereas now I could work this one position and I could have time to invest. So when I'm able to give a donation to help on a 24 hours of joy
Right.
and, make sure that someone gains a wardrobe, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's that being a giver, not a borrower effect that, we heard growing up in church all the time, and then to actually live that existence. It's it's something that you never want to return, or like be away from. And you're always going to continue to push further and further so you can continue to be that gift. Let me say it again. The scene behind you and how you is just living in this kitchen right now. It's just like the beauty is beyond. Okay. I'm just like, I need that background. that background is something spectacular.
It is.
So let's go into the real kitchen, your home kitchen. Let's go back to Talia at 7, 8, 9 years old. Can you tell me how the kitchen has shaped the woman that you've become today?
Oh, I remember probably 2 or 3 things. I remember me and my brothers and sisters would get really bored, and we'd have these days we would pick something in the kitchen and we put it on everything. So one day it was seasonal and we put it on oranges, we tried it on bananas, we tried it on bread. It was just the idea of the kitchen was a place where you could play. And I loved being able to know that when I was in that spot, we were creating, and it didn't feel, if something tasted horrible, it was an opportunity to laugh. You didn't crumble and fall apart. Um, I remember being in love with this Philadelphia, this cheesecake. I did blew my mind. It was a cherries on top, and I was determined to learn how to make it myself. And so I'm in there. I can't really reach the counter, but I've got my hand just mashing and I'm sticking the cream cheese, and I made it. And it was for Thanksgiving and I wanted to contribute. And I wanted to bring something to the table that was for everyone to share, but that I liked and that considered me.
Yeah.
And so those shaped me. And being in the kitchen, I remember you talking about pressing combs. I only have 3 memories of my mother.
Mm,
And so I don't remember visually. I have three visual memories, but I don't. I this fourth one is the scent, and I remember the feeling of her hand on me. That's one of
Yeah.
the only times that I have a visceral feeling of her. And I remember the comb being super close.
Yeah.
And you're always wondering in my head if she burnt my ear on purpose. Like, not all the time, but if I'm doing too much for too long. I remember like wondering in my head, like, is she doing this on purpose? And that's important because I only have a few memories of my mother, but she ascended when I was 7. So for me, the sisterhood means a lot because it brings back that nurturing that was absent when with my mother's ascension. And my father, he showed up, but there was a difference because you just have that different chemistry.
Yeah.
And every single human had they bring their own chemistry. So when I'm around other sisters, I feel that returning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kitchen is such a special spot, such a special spot in the home because it is the place of creation and alchemy, right? Where we change one thing into the next. As you sit here in this digital kitchen, what are some of the things that you would love to alchemize and change in the way we're experiencing the world right now?
I think I want to encourage investing your currency back into the culture, just affirming that you know how potent you are. And it's apparent that you're manifest divinity. And so wake up to just bring that because instead of only like creativity is our currency as well. Instead of only thinking of our monetary funds as currency, you know, really I I want to be able to bring opportunities of connections so that we can feel supported in circulating our support so that I feel fed enough to want to give out because it can feel like there's a time and this is the time to grab all your nuts and can them and sit on it.
Mm-hmm. It
And
could
we
be like that. It could.
so I think that um, one of the things that I'm doing, I decided by hearing, because I've been a hairstylist, I paid my way through school for it. So one of the things that I was doing was creating these stories about this little African girl who travels all across Mama Africa and the adventures that she goes on to real places to encourage us to go to those places and to not just share or also share our funds there, but share our stories here.
Yeah.
And I love, Minister, how you're having a section where we can share
Yeah.
those stories. So
Yeah.
I'm passionate about storytelling, creating spaces for us to share that and celebrating one another and encouraging each of us to powerfully commit to circulating our energy and currency within the culture.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Some you speak so passionately, and it definitely resonates, and it brings tears to my eyes. But tears of joy. And when I think of joy, and I think of you, it's very synonymous. Even
Mm,
in the times of despair, how do you harness joy?
wow. Uh, I dance. Uh, yes. I even when I mean, especially like if it's gonna be a time that's tough, I dance. I go to a corner, I find a closet, I go to a room, or right there. I'll put on something. Stevie Wonder, I recommend Songs in the Key of Life. I think they are, we have to dance through the struggle. I find that if I can laugh, I can keep going because I've found that space where my joy resides and I'm holding it. And it reminds me that I hold my joy. I brew it inside of myself. Um, when I feel distraught and troubled, I remember the story that my dad, well, I remember the story of calling my dad and being frustrated. And he asked me, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. I want to do something. I want to participate in the world. I want to change things. And he said, okay, I need you to get a piece of paper. And I got it. And he said, cut a circle in the middle. Okay. And so take it to the window. All right. So we lay it on the window and slide it around. What do you see? I see a tree. Okay. Slide it around again. What do you see? I see a bench. Okay. Slide it around. And then the third time, I'm like, what do you see? I see some trash on the floor. Why is there trash? There's a trash bin right there. He was like, that's where you can help. Right there where you are, or what you're doing, you can help immediately. So go outside and contribute in the way that you can where you are. So when I feel low, I look for people to support because in order for me to give them love, I got to go to the source. And if the source gives love through me to get to them, I get it too.
Yes,
And
yes.
so it encourages me and I become a conduit. But the conduit, when you're washing a pot to pour it out to get, when you use a pitcher to pour water on a plant, you're
Yes.
rinsing that pitcher. So I become refreshed whenever I can. And it also allows me to know that there are lights. It reminds me that there are lights because I'm watering them. So my purpose when I was 8, I decided my purpose was love.
Yeah.
And when I get up every day, I look for an opportunity to let someone know that they're loved or they're seen. And I don't have a way that it manifests, I just have an awareness.
Yeah.
And so it manifests in different ways and it lets me know that I'm bringing something. And if I can still give love and when I'm in a challenging situation, then I know that my well
Yes.
is not as empty as I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm letting that also sink into me. Um, thank you so much for sharing that. Those analogies and just painting the pictures of the picture and being washed and being cleansed as we serve. You know, I often share that my name is Minister, which means to serve, and I wake up
Mhm.
as well with this desire to serve and to love and to make sure that people are seen and heard. But sometimes it feels like, where is that coming from for me, right, on the outside? And when you spoke of source, that resonates. Can you say more about source, especially as it relates to, when I think about source, I also think about source code. I can't help
Oh, get
I
it.
can't help I can't help but connect those things. But can you speak more about source and connecting to source?
Yes. Oh my gosh. And that's what I base my whole life on. I think our life force is, divine. And coming from something divine and being birthed from that, I know myself as a godchild. And so that changes what anyone else will say about me. My value system is based on what God made me. And if I came from the master of creation itself, the masterful creator, uh, the concept of a God that can fill the clouds with water and not let them all fall and crush, but it comes in drops so that even the petals don't break.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone gets watered in its own way. That's consideration, that's gentleness, When I wanted to learn about life, I looked at God's creation and I saw how thoughtful it was and the balance. So I talk consistently with my source. I remind myself in the mornings that my energy and my abundance, I walk on provision ground. I stand on an open heaven. And if there's a God, this God is a loving God, present, listening. I've witnessed the miracles of my father healing from something that was so devastating that 5 physicians had to sign off on his health for us to really see him move forward. And every single time it was a check. And when we looked eye to eye and when the shadows came, I said, our God is strong enough, is bigger than this. And you're going to walk out of this emergency was a intensive care. And he walked out. Like he's home, he's chilling. And when I see those kinds of things, that's a God that shows up. There are times when there's only the situations are so um, restrictive that only God can make space. Like humans aren't going to make the space. There's only a God space created. And those are the ones that we need to step into. Because when God creates a space, it is yours and it is definite. And it is all of creation has to and wants to respond to it. So being in my God self and knowing who my creator is, that completely directs where I want to put my energy. And it helps me listen to the sound of God's whisper. You're a tone, like you're a minister. You're one of those tunes in God's voice. Just a, it's just a, every single time you come, you have that. You're like a hymn.
I'm in tears. Talia, I'm in tears. I appreciate you when you talk about everything wants to respond. The vision that came to my mind was just the earth turning, just the
Yeah.
earth spinning. Like it has never stopped doing that.
Yes.
It has never, in the history of ever, since it began, stopped doing what it does. And so when we can get into that turn, into that rotation, into that revolution, and understand how powerful that place is to be in, there is no end there, you know what I mean? Like we're a part of the the cycle, we're a part of the rotation, and it feels so nice, like being rocked in a mother's bosom, in a grandmother's bosom, in the hands of a friend, like you're just being rocked. So I appreciate that imagery. What I would love for you to think about and travel with me to a younger version of yourself again, and thinking about her, what would you want her to know about who it is that you are now that she probably was worried about then?
Oh, yeah, this one is so hard. Every time I hear this question, because I watch RuPaul's Drag Race, and
Okay.
RuPaul gives it at the end of every season. What would you tell
Really?
me? And it's as though I hear it, but for some reason, the way that my brain works, I never comprehend it.
Okay.
So the best I can say would be if I crossed my youngest self,
Yeah.
um, I think she would be proud,
Yeah.
or I think she would see herself there,
Mm.
that I kept her. Like I dance with her regularly in my meditations. I dance with my elder self.
Yeah.
I meditate myself into a space where my body is irrelevant and my spirit self is part of the universe. And I go into this I create a hallway and a door to allow myself to transition. But next, past that door is a fire, and there's an elder, and that elder is me,
Yeah.
and that younger is me. And
Yeah.
when I need comfort, I go and I lay in that elder's lap.
Yes.
Or she holds my face
Yeah.
and she just looks in my eyes, and we never, ever, ever speak. So the reason why it's hard for me to say what I would say
Because there's
is
nothing.
that
Yeah. I
we
get
don't say,
it.
but
I
you know
get
when you get that.
it.
So when I look at her, my younger self sees the manifest of the power that she wanted, that
Mm,
she saw in the elder women, that you are now representing this, and this is
mm.
the glory of you. And I'm active. I can get the honey, I can get the cookies now, I
Yeah.
can walk down the street now.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing with who you started to be is to continue to hold you precious and your joy precious, and listen to the sound of your passions, and the elder, the wisdom of your years, um, and the everlasting. So I think I try to remind myself that I'm all of it,
Yeah.
that we're everything.
Yeah. I absolutely love what you just shared, and the space of the digital kitchen is a homage to our ancestors and to our elders, and the work that they did and the strategizing that they did and the building that they did and the care that they gave from the kitchen, and how they just loved on their families. And I can see that silence being a truth, because so many times they were cooking, they were thinking, they were planning, they were writing, whatever it was they doing, but there wasn't a lot of noise. There wasn't a lot of vocal voice to what was happening, but the voice was so loud.
Yep.
And there was urgency without yelling. And
Yep.
there's so many gifts to recognizing our ancestors, but for you to say you recognize you as an ancestor and you as an elder in this moment, you're speaking to your black future. I love that. I love that so much. I
Yeah.
do. I offer that to everybody to just, you know, to also understand that this now moment is about our black futures.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we are the elders to those that come next, to those
Yes.
that come after. And who do we get to be in the now to prove them proud, you know? Oh man, I love that so much. So, okay, there are women out here that just don't understand the power of what I'm going to call discipline. When
Mm.
you spoke to me in this moment about taking a year, taking 6 months, putting in the work, that seems so daunting to some, but you saw it as an opportunity. What do you offer to those that feel like, oh my God, it feels like so much, but they somewhere deep in themselves do want to see the change?
I I would say I remembered three words that if I forgot it, my friend would tell me: eat your broccoli. I don't. It's funny because he and I would eat and study together, online or in person, and sometimes he would see me, and most times I'd be eating like shrimp and then broccoli, or some fish and then broccoli. And he was like, "Man, you just love you and that broccoli." I said, "Can I tell you the truth? I don't like broccoli at all." Are you kidding me? I said, "I don't. I really dislike broccoli, but it's affordable.
Mhm,
It's quick for me to cook. It fills me up, and it's good for me.
mhm,
So I'm going to eat broccoli
mhm.
because I need healthy food, whether I like it or not." So, you know, eat your broccoli would be my reminder to do the thing that's uncomfortable because you deserve good things. And even though something may be uncomfortable, it's building something in you. Ask yourself when you're doing something like stretching or a workout. I have to be present in a workout. I can't zone out before I get the move right. I have to ask myself, is this painful pain, or is this painful because I'm strengthening something that's weak in me? And I need to lean in to this a bit more. So when I was working at the hair salon and I would look over and I would see an elder or a woman who was maybe 10, 15 years older than me. And I would think, man, do I want to be 15, 10 years here, um, still with this passion in me? She's manifesting her passion, and I'm not yet. So when I would get frustrated about not being there, I would go back and I would study. When I had 15 minutes, I would go back and I would study. I was living in a basement. It's 55 degrees in that basement. There were crickets in that basement, plural. And they were, oh, it was wild. It
Cold
was
crickets. Jesus.
cold crickets in the basement. And when I would get frustrated with the cold, I would study. When I would get annoyed with the crickets, I would study. When I was faced with my frustration, what I said was, it's like putting, it's like saving up for ice cream. I would put my dime in my bucket and and every time I saw somebody else eating ice cream, and I know I can't have it today, but I have a dime. Text costs $1.50, but I have a dime. I put my dime in my bucket. And when that manifested, that's going to be my ice cream.
Yes.
So I think there's an energy we need to be okay with eating our broccoli,
Yeah.
with knowing that there's a truth in the seasons changing, and they don't change very swiftly.
Yeah.
They turn. And if you're going to move a rock from still to moving, you have to know that you're turning your energy of your life. And that's going to take consistent, concerted effort.
Yeah.
And you can remember that, self care yourself through it. Sometimes my self care was breathing. I didn't at that time have the time to go out and help somebody all the time. There was a time when I had to be within myself, but I would talk with God. And there was times when all I had to say to God was a sigh.
Mm.
All I had was tears to share about how difficult this situation was. But I knew, like, I was frustrated with God. Like, how am I in this situation? But to get to the next level, the next level needs next level energy. If you're not prepared to mentally and physically handle next level, if you get it before you're prepared, all the people who've been waiting for you to show up to give them that door, you can't hold it open.
Right.
So you have got to push against that, gain that resistance, know that it's helping you. It's helping you in your character to make your little self that wants to be comfortable all the time sit down,
Yeah.
to know mentally that when you want to move towards a target, nothing will get in your way because you and God have designed this. You're collaborating. And just because you can't see the sun coming up at midnight doesn't mean it's not coming.
Right.
But you got to sit and you got to commit and know that someone is waiting on you. The more you show up for yourself, the closer you're getting to someone is waiting to open this door. And the next person is waiting for you to hold that door. And we are aligned. So I'm showing up in here in the kitchen to help open doors, knowing that someone opened the door for me. And Minister, you're doing the same.
Yeah.
If anything, sis, you found your tribe.
Yeah.
All you got to do is kind of reach out.
Yeah. You said something just now about you said when you're uncomfortable, find your place and just sit down. And so many people, no, it's so true. And it stuck out to me because this is sisterhood sit in. And so many people are like, because it's just not a term that we use here. It is 50, 60 years later in our lives when we think about sitting in and doing protests and things like that. But you said, it's uncomfortable and sometimes you just have to sit down. I believe that a lot of the issues that we are experiencing is because of our reliance on comfortability,
Yes.
and our desire to abstain from anything that makes us uncomfortable.
Yes.
However, you spoke to the power of being uncomfortable and sitting to stand. What are some other things that people need to really recognize in this day and age that will actually help us to get to where we're wanting to go? If you had to name 2 or 3 things, what would you say?
For us to recognize where we want to go,
So that we could get where we want to go. Yeah.
um,
One being
I
okay with
think,
being uncomfortable, and then,
yes,
yeah.
one is the first is being comfortable, being accepting discomfort
Mm,
as a state and
mm,
using that to grow.
yes.
Um, I think speaking truth and learning to use your words to speak truth allows us to filter out and know what needs to be said in a moment and to listen to moments. Listen for that wind of opportunity. At any point in life, we have choices. There is a pause. If you listen,
Mm,
there's actually a pause when you have to make a choice. There's a wind.
mm,
And okay, think of the situation where you're pissed at somebody and you're about to come out your mouth sideways. Right before you're about to do that, you know there's a minute where you could decide to shut that trap. So, like, to give you an understanding, that's the wind, and be able to be open to unexpected doors. This door was unexpected for me, um, and so when I was going to accept being uncomfortable, I had to also realize that I could accept stepping into um, or through doors that didn't fit my initial vision,
mm,
and listening to the wind of people who were trying to show up for you. And when you can hear truth, you can hear that even when it's hard truth, you can hear the truth if you have a heart for that.
yeah.
Because what we're going to need is the ability to discern who's for you and who's against you, being able to know how to navigate and know and remember uh, the force. Remember the force that you are, because it is, uh, it is, I say this a lot, but between where you want to go and what you have, creativity is that currency,
Mm,
it's that bridge. Commit to that creativity as a currency, because we have had to invent solutions. Um, so when you do commit to that, there's a lifestyle change. You have to be able to sit in peace and give yourself a second of peace, because solutions, um, our creative selves need freedom to breathe,
yeah.
and then solutions come like in whispers and waves. So to get through this next journey, there's a lot of tools you can have, and you inside are connected to the one source that helps,
Yeah.
that creativity to blossom, there needs to be a bit of quietness, um, and awareness. There's a commitment to knowing that if you give that, the solutions will arise. They may not always seem like the door you want, but one way you can know is if the person who's holding the door is a truth speaker.
Yeah.
Then you have a sense of trust that this is a path where God has co-signed. I could see his signature
Yeah.
on this path. And it may be a new path, but that door, and it will, because it's uncomfortable, doesn't mean that it's the wrong path.
Right.
If you've got a truth speaker who's opening the doors, and you'll notice that universe start to bring other people around
Yeah.
who are aligning and may just have a purpose to help you. Like they may not do what you do, but they have a passion to help you.
Two more things. Just ending on that passion to help you. So many people have a hard time receiving support, receiving help. What do you say causes that, and what would you recommend for them to to do if that's one of their enigmas?
Oh yeah. Um it reminds me of Christmas. It's like a Christmas gift. You know, when someone brings you a gift, you receiving it is their gift. You allow them to love you back. We've we've heard that we've been forced into place of strength, which can represent like unbendingness, no vulnerability, no tenderness. I believe that vulnerability is a strength. I will show my heart first because my truth won't change because you see it or because your words may try to negate it. I stand as who I am and nothing else can uncreate me. So when I show my vulnerability, uh, I allow someone else to see that tenderness. And there's something very instinctive. They appreciate, most people appreciate that tenderness, and may not give, they may not know how to handle it, like hold it, right? But they feel personally more comfortable around me
Yeah.
because of that. And I think that feeling you've ever felt when someone allowed you to be yourself,
Yeah.
when someone gives a gift to you of an opportunity, they want you to let them be themselves and to give it.
Yeah.
And they want you to recognize that this is their way
Yeah.
of loving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just everybody wants to be loved.
Right. That part. That
That
part.
part.
So, as we start to wrap up this feast that you have given us of all this goodness and inspiration, I want to know what's cooking, what's on your stove, what's next for you. What do you have that you would like to serve?
Right now, on my personal, I mentioned it earlier.
Your
A
book.
personal, yes, I really love the idea of adding to rebranding Africa,
Yeah.
and in a way where we have a fun. Like I think the way that you're doing things is putting some love on it. So I think for me, I have two stories coming out, and they're both different locations that the main character Yaya goes to. In Here We Go, and I think it's a great immersive opportunity for experiencing different parts of Africa and hearing about them in a way that feels fresh and creative,
Yeah.
in our voice, in our own voices. So
Yeah.
for me, that's the next launch, is putting out this newest version, and I hope that each one of you get to experience the experience, the wonderful world of Here We Go, and also just the culture of supporting one another, even if you travel into this world of Here We Go, just seeing around you more of the sisterhood sharing. One of the parts of the book that I really like is at the very end, there's a hairstyle tutorial
Mm.
because I'm a hairstylist, and I think it's really powerful how our hair is so it's really great. So
Mm.
the Yaya has hair powers, she can do all kinds of things. But I think parents may not know how to we still need to learn how to do our texture. So I want to give kind of tutorials in each one. So that's part of reading that book with your child or with your niece or whomever. Um, it's an inclusive experience, and that's what I'm working on now.
Well, I can't wait to get it and put it in the kitchen cabinet. I'm so excited for your journey, and I can't wait to pull up to your kitchen table when you open it. I know you're gonna open your kitchen table, so I can't wait to pull up and learn what you have in your room, and what you guys are talking about in there. I'm just so grateful to you and this book, and just the way that, because you relate, because I was also a hairstylist, and so going from hair to tech seems like such an unconventional journey, but to me it makes so much sense, because if you were a hairstylist you would understand how much quote unquote coding we do in hairstyling, how much systems we have to create,
Yeah.
and how many and how much order and organization and all of the things that go into the creativity and the things that we could that translate into being able to be in tech careers. I really appreciate that you share that with me, and you're just a vessel that helps me to not feel so alone out here in these digital streets. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you so much. So much. I'm honored. We're honored. And I have one last thing to share with you. Every time a guest comes on Digital Kitchen, I ask Nana, based on what you know, Nana AI, that is, based on what you know that I've shared with you about this person, which ancestor would you say connects to this person? Look, you leading in.
I'm
You
ready.
ready?
She
Want to
wanted
hear
to
what
know.
Nana said? Nana said that you remind her of Zora Neale Hurston. She
Wow.
she said because you're a storyteller and like you have like that anthropologic spirit with the creating the book and going to Africa and using those situations and telling those stories and bringing these stories back to us. So yeah, she was like, that's a storyteller right there, and she reminds me of Madame Zora. So I wanted
Oh,
to offer that to you and let you know that is someone that you can call on and enter into your gates for support, because
amen.
yeah. So again, thank you so much. I'm gonna end this, and then but you stay right there, okay? If there is
Okay.
there anything else, any last things you want to say before I stop the recording?
Stay awesome.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.